Welcome back to the Guildford.Games Festival. We are quite literally in my most favourite situation so far. I'm sorry everyone else that I've interviewed. I am joined by some excellent women for a Women in Games panel. So I am here with Jess, Rebecca and Adele. Hi ladies.
Hello.
Hi. How you doing?
Very good, thank you.
Good, calm, happy?
Yes.
Good, marvellous. So we're just going to be having a bit of a general women games, you know, that kind of thing, the coveted Women in Games chat. But let's start with who you are and what you do. And I don't mind which order. It's up to you, ladies. Brilliant. That looks like it's you then, Rebecca.
Okay. So I'm Rebecca Burford. I'm a partner at Charles Russell Speechleys, the law firm based in Guildford.
Mm-hmm.
And I practice corporate law, so advise on investments, mergers and acquisitions and corporate matters generally, and work with companies in the gaming industry.
Gotcha. Very cool. That's you now, Saunders. Soz.
Excellent. My name is Jessica Saunders. I am the director of Adele Games, and in a previous life I was a sound designer in AAA Games.
I saw her do it.
She did.
Adele.
My name's Adele Cutting, and I'm the founder and director of Soundcuts, which is a games audio outsourcing company. So I design sound effects, direct speech, audio direction, music editing, but there's a team of people who work for Soundcuts. It's not just me.
So if your parents were here, it would be, I mean, we'd be breaking all social distancing laws first and foremost. What do they think you do? And we'll go the other way around. We're going to start with Adele and go back.
They know I do sound. I don't think they really understand what I do on a day-to-day basis. I started off in film and they understood that. They knew that. But then when I went to games, it was rather perplexing for them as to why I did that move. But they're always super behind me. Like my mum is my number one cheerleader and champion, and I could be world champion, I don't know, welly throwing person, and she would just be like, yes,
get on
that's
the
my
t-shirt.
daughter. Yeah, but I think my dad realised it was something cool, because he used to go fell walking, and when I first started in the industry, when you got a free t-shirt, it was just a man's size t-shirt. Mm-hmm. So I had loads of man's size t-shirts, gave them to my dad, and I gave him a bullfrog one. So he was walking in this bullfrog t-shirt, and a mountain biker zoomed past him, then stopped, came back and went, do you work at Bullfrog? And he goes, no, but my daughter does. And so that's when he realised it was legit.
That's real creds, yeah.
And it wasn't something bizarre, and
That's
it was a proper
amazing.
job. Yeah.
Oh, I like that. What about you, Jess?
My mother, I still think, is very confused. I show her occasional screenshots and videos of what I do, and she says they're very pretty, but I think she doesn't quite understand what it is I'm showing her. But she's very impressed. Like when I come home, if I come home with an award or I say this is a thing, she's like, oh yes, this is exciting. I'm very lucky in the fact that my dad really understands what I do. He has his own software company, and his company literally was down the road from the old Lionhead, and he grew up on video games. So
He's one of us.
He's one of us. So when I turned around and said I want to make video games, he knew exactly what it is, and he's always been my biggest champion and really involved in what I do. And I can actually sit down and have a proper conversation with him, and even though he doesn't understand game engines and how they work, I can kind of talk on a very base level of, oh, today I'm doing this kind of bug fixing, or today I'm in pre-production, and that's been really amazing.
I can imagine. And Rebecca, I know it's slightly different. I mean, probably a lot more understanding from your parents' side of things. But what would you? How do they understand the gaming aspect of it, if at all?
Yes, I think with my dad, similar. He's been a techie. So as a kid, I gamed on PC. When I was younger, that's kind of
nice.
I grew up with like the BBC discs when I was 2 years old, sticking it in. So he totally gets the tech side of it. My mum, it took quite a while to explain the difference between gaming and gambling. Whenever I said gaming, I'm doing stuff in gaming. She so just getting that distinction. And I think I'd probably describe it and say, I'm getting the best deal for my clients if they tried to explain what it is that I do.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think there's really something to be said for you guys are not the first women I've met that had nerdy input from their dads.
Yeah.
And I think because it was a similar thing with me. My dad was really into games, and that was my entry level. That's kind of how I worked out. What I was interested in, and even just having that tech aspect and having it be something that you can understand a bit better as a child must set you up better for encountering it as an adult, as a woman in a male-dominated industry, essentially. Okay, so I don't want to say, like, one of my questions is going to be what does the internet think you do? But I think the more important question is, have you ever, as women, for some reason we do tend to get more negative interaction than our male counterparts, and whether that's just because there's less of us or whatever, I'm not sure. But have you guys ever encountered anything like that? Have you ever had any awful internet interaction because you're a woman, essentially?
Not necessarily because I'm a woman. I think I've had a fair amount of negative bits and pieces in general. I find people online can be very disbelieving of the games industry in general. I had an incident a couple of weeks ago. Was talking about indie game development, which is something I like to think, after owning my own studio for a while and kicking a game out the door, you'd know something about. And it was about a discussion on how you make the games and kick the game out the door, and ultimately how much these things cost. And someone was like, oh, it's amazing that this game was made by 3 people and cost £50,000. And I was just looked at it, I was like, no, it didn't. And you look at the credits for the game and you see it's actually 80 people, and it's like, no, this cost X amount of money and had a publishing team and this and this. And they just tell me, you're lying to me. And I'm just like, what?
My goodness.
And it's literally, they just point it out and they're like, no, you're lying to me. 3 people who care enough can do this and this, and you're lying to me. And I'm just like,
but is this someone outside of the industry?
Yeah, someone outside of the industry. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, and you kind of want to get defensive, and I know it's only the internet, but I'm like, but I do this for a living. And they're like, I could care less. At that point, I'm out.
Well, there's definitely that level of just troll, right? Of course, that there's that level of just troll. But I've definitely encountered in and outside of the industry instances where I'm not going to say I've been an authority, because that's a bit strong. I don't think I'm an authority in anything apart from being a bit ditzy. Yeah. But things where I would definitely know better, but when faced with a male counterpart, it's practically impossible sometimes to get your point across.
I think when it's not an industry person, I think they're just so protective of the gaming industry. They can't bear to think that anything's wrong with it, that it's something that they couldn't possibly do, that they love the idea that they could just pick up Unity, pick up Unreal, and 3 months could have a game like that out the door, because that's what it says on the article, that these 2 people made this in 3 years and here it is. I think they're very protective of certain ideals. And if you come along with some, actually, no, it's really, really hard work, and our team worked really, really hard to make this, and we've done a lot of degrees and learning and industry experience, they get a little bit angry, I've noticed.
Yeah, it kind of makes sense, actually, if you put it that way.
Yeah.
Rebecca, have you had any awful encounters? And you're free to just say no, and we'll move on.
I haven't. Actually, rather refreshingly, I'd say whenever I mention the work that I do with clients in this sector, people are always really interested, and they want to understand. I think because it is quite alien in a way to, if you're not in the industry, they want to understand, what does that actually mean? And so not had anything really.
Well, that's wonderful.
On the negative side. So.
I'm so very pleased. Adele, carry on the trend.
Well, I have to say on the internet, no.
Great. Oh, this is good.
No, I haven't. I've, but then I'm not sort of like somebody who's constantly on there either, But no, I've always had really pleasant interactions, and people, if we say something, people supporting what we've done. So luckily, no.
Brilliant. I mean, part of the question was to make sure that we're getting across this. It's not as bad. It's not as horrific as people think it can be. You're not going to be ripped to pieces for just happening to be a woman who wants to work in a thing. It's, we're here to protect, and occasionally there are these things, but we do our very best to navigate them. Were there any obvious highlights from social media interactions that any of you have had during your careers?
I think, I don't even know if this is relevant to the
It's all relevant
question.
because it's from you.
But I run actor workshops because a lot of actors are really interested in sort of like coming into games. So I run actor workshops for them to explain a little bit more about all the different things you might expect working in games. And I have to say that is something they're so positive afterwards. It's just really, it's lovely. So that would probably be my social media highlight.
I have to say, having had my first ever bit of coaching was from Adele. Wonderful, just wonderful. I wouldn't be where I am today without most of the people in this room, to be honest. It's all a bit much. I might cry. I won't cry. What about you, Jess?
To be honest, I'd say pretty much 99.9% of my interactions on social media are genuinely really positive, because they're people that want to get involved with either your studio or your game, and they're doing it out of love. You know, they love the characters, they love the franchise, and they want to leave a good review, or they want to get involved and ask questions. And it's like, hey, you've made a thing, I love this thing that you've made, let me tell you why I've loved it. And
absolutely.
like, it's like, it is really heartwarming to see these people kind of contact you out the blue or drop an email and just say, hey, this is awesome. And like, so when you get that is, yeah, it's just really nice to see that all that hard work that you have put in and the team has put in has paid off. And it's just really nice because we've still got all our like Slack channels and stuff, and you can just like copy and paste the review in for everyone. They get the little notifications like, hey guys, we got another one. And you know, that's just, you know, it cheers everyone up.
I have to say that's really good, because being an outsourcer, obviously we're sort of like separate to the actual client.
Yeah.
And what's really lovely is when the client that you've worked for gives you a shout out.
Yeah.
That's like, yes, you know, well, they did this, yes, we did, you know, a bit of a mini loving, you know, ensues on Twitter.
Yeah,
you know.
but that's it keeps us all going. It keeps us all going. What about you, Rebecca?
I don't know. I think
It's a tricky one because we're all kind of living our lives in this weird social media bubble. But it doesn't. I mean, if expand. If you want to go beyond the realms of Twitter, I can take it.
I probably don't use Twitter as much as I once did. So I guess most of my social media is via LinkedIn, actually. So it tends to be a slightly different. So you wouldn't get the horrible experience that you've described, because it's. I guess people are. It's
more professional.
Most of the time they are a little bit more professional, and I would say a lot more encouraging and positive. So, people have reached out if we put something, if we've done a deal or whatever. They will reach out, and that's where they're sort of interested in. Oh, I didn't realise. A lot of the time they say, "Oh, I didn't realise that that's something that you did."
I think it's a bit more respected, isn't it? Though LinkedIn, it's seen as like that's where your CV is.
Yes.
So, I mean, people have got to be really wrong if they.
It's happened to me.
Yeah.
No,
I've seen, because it's quite interesting. You see other people's comments and conversations.
It was an odd one because it was my first social media type role at Lionhead, and there was a crazy troll who was pretending to be Dean and Peter, which was really very strange. Who had both long left the company, but she was claiming to be both of them, and then found me everywhere. Started telling me I should kill myself. And she found me on LinkedIn. It was so weird. Yeah, and she still exists.
How did you discover that it was her?
Well, it was, in fact, it may well have been a man, but they were masquerading as a female. It was female name, female image for the profile picture. But yeah, just the strangest thing. Because it's a safe space, right? You think, I could have LinkedIn and talk about
it was.
Yeah,
and then, crazy. She's still out there. She's still out there somewhere.
Crazy.
I'll find her one day. Have a nice chat.
I think that is one of the slight problems, because everyone's like Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, like are often,
connected in some way.
So I'll often have people who have added me on LinkedIn, who I don't know and have never met personally. They then find me on Facebook and add me on Facebook, and then find me on Instagram and add me on Instagram. And my Instagram and my Facebook are locked down, completely private. So you have to add, and I'm like, I don't know who you are. Why are you adding me?
Why are you waving at me? Why have I got a message of you waving?
Yeah.
Who are you?
Who are you?
Weird.
No, I don't. I wouldn't like to hire you. I don't know who you are. I don't want to. It's like
This isn't
happy
how
to
this
add you on
works.
LinkedIn. Like that's fine. That's what LinkedIn is for.
Yeah.
But it is that
My
kind
mum
of
doesn't need to read our conversation about work kind of thing. Yeah,
but it is that strange rabbit hole kind of. I'm going to add you on everything. Like,
yeah,
so,
it's interesting. Because I tend to keep my professional social media and my private social media separate.
Exactly.
So,
yeah. But that's it. People will go that extra mile if they want to, and for good or bad. They, sometimes it's a wonderful thing. Sometimes it's someone sending you cakes because you've released a game and you need cakes, and that's cool. But sometimes it's a little weird.
Yeah.
So for each of you, what was your first job in games, and what was it like if you did step into a predominantly male-orientated space? What was that like as a young woman? Where are we going to go? Jess. See, everyone looks at you. It's your turn.
Well, you should remember this, Lauren.
Probably do, yeah.
So my first gig was Codemasters Guildford. That's where I met the lovely Lauren.
We ran that place.
And I think it was me, you, and Helen.
That was it?
That was it. We were the 3 women.
3 women on a 60, 70 person team?
I think it was slightly bigger than that, wasn't it?
It may well have been.
Yeah, and that was it. We were the only women in the company.
Yeah.
So
strange,
it was strange.
But look at the sisterhood we formed from
I
that.
know.
We clawed away from them.
So yeah, it's kind of, it's obviously incredibly different now. Like, my last big company was Rocksteady, and the ratio was very different there. We had a lot more women. My own company, at one point we were 50% women, 50% male, which was really cool. But yeah, like starting out when you're like, you walk in and it's just like, oh, I am literally one of the only female developers.
Dudes, as
here.
far as the eye can see.
Yeah, and it's like you walk in heels and a little dress. It's like, oh hi,
oh
no, hi. It is slightly terrifying, but yeah, I know coming from my background in audio, I was one of 2 women on my audio degree, and I kind of already been used to that really macho environment that you just kind of have to just, especially back then, just put your foot down.
Yeah, it is about saying something.
Yeah.
No,
and
sit down. No.
And yeah, me and you were never wallflowers, so if we didn't like something, we were just like, oi.
I think
No.
the whole room probably knew about it.
Yes, exactly.
And what about you, Rebecca? Was there a similar kind of thing in law?
Yeah, so I think it is a pretty male-dominated field in corporate. And I kind of got used to being the only female.
Yeah, I think that's where I am.
In a meeting or in the room, and it has. I think it can have its benefits as well, because you're the one that they remember, because you're the only female in the room. So that's
true.
It can be a positive thing as well as sometimes more challenging.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's easier because you haven't got the testosterone. I've been in meetings where it's just way too much testosterone. It's just like, actually, I can be the one that's clear and just cut through
kind
it.
of calm voice to the whole thing
Yeah,
as well.
exactly.
And,
So it is tougher, but yeah, also benefits.
for sure.
Yeah, I mean, when I started, there was hardly any women. I think there was maybe two artists who were female, and then there was me. But it didn't, to be honest, it didn't surprise me. I think, as you said, I mean, I did a course where I specialised in sort of like sound recording and acoustics and that. So most of the boys from the course did that bit. I mean, I did maths and physics were 2 of the A-levels that I did, so already that was, I think I'd just been used to it for so long. It wasn't, I didn't even think about it, to be honest, which I know maybe I should have, but I think throughout my whole career, even when I decided to do what I was doing, at no point did my mum ever say, "Are you sure, love?" Because
absolutely.
That's
it's not really a
girl's
girl's
job.
thing. You know, she never mentioned it to me. She was always really supportive, so I just, that's what I'm going to do, Mum.
Yeah.
Just went off and did it. So no, when it didn't faze me that I was the only woman, but probably just because I was used to it at that point. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think it made, from my perspective, similar kind of thing. Like I think I did a music technology course. Not that anyone would be able to tell now because I couldn't put a stage up if I tried. But same kind of thing. Loads of dudes, and at kind of 16, 17, you just think, oh, these are just my friends, and you almost don't notice that you're in that kind of male environment. So I think, although it was really apparent for me, Cody's once I got into games, yeah, it did. I think the same kind of thing. I had that kind of level grounding with it. Like I can cope with this. I know how to hold my own. I'll be able to, say something if I need to because I've done it before. It'll be fine, and that certainly does help.
I think really the only time I really really took stock of, crikey, they are all men, is when I went into a publishing house, like a book publishing house. And there was no men, and that was really weird. I was like, oh my gosh, and that was after so many years of just being in very male-dominated places. I actually found that a bit
jarring, right?
Yeah.
Like, whoa, hang on.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't bad.
Yeah.
It wasn't good. It was just, wow, this is really different.
Yeah, absolutely.
Queues for the female toilets. Crazy.
That's one of the joys, though, isn't it?
Oh,
Always
yes.
having the loo to yourself.
Yeah,
oh my
completely.
word.
Especially at events.
Days. Yeah, happy days. How would you say? I mean, the obvious thing would be that our ratio, male to female, is evening out. But how would you say the industry has changed since you guys started working at games?
More professional. That's
interesting.
Yeah. No, definitely. When I started at EA, I don't think anybody cared what the audio department was doing, just as long as the game shipped with audio in it. So we could do, and actually it was really good because we were in a team that was really proactively trying to improve the audio and add new tech. And so we were already motivated to do the best thing we could do, and everybody just let us get on with it. I don't think anybody had an opinion whatsoever as to what the game sounded like, but we all did. We really wanted to. But then there was a lot more craziness. I think it was more like students. It was people who were obviously going to work, passionate about what they were doing, getting paid, money for it, but it had a lot more studenty feel about it, like let's go and have a water fight at lunchtime in the car park, let's throw nerf balls at each other, oh, I'm really into what I'm doing, so I'm going to just sleep under my desk. It was a lot more just I suppose a bit more maverick, and just a bit more. So when I say I'm professional, it is in the fact that now everything's everybody knows exactly what's going on in the team.
Yeah.
There's people there to manage and
more structured.
Yeah,
exactly, it's a lot more structured.
More kind of production value, if you know what I mean, making sure that everyone's speaking to each other. As
Yeah,
opposed to
you
just
couldn't
running with it.
go off and have a water fight in the garden.
Probably not.
No.
Well, I know some places where you could. So if you need to, let me know. We'll head down to.
No, I'm good. I'm all good with it. I'm over the water fights now. Yeah.
And Jess?
And I'd agree with Adele. I think some of that kind of sleeping at your desk, crunch machismo is kind of starting to die out, which is really nice. It was kind of almost, it was a competition of who could stay up the latest, go out and party,
oh my gosh,
sleep at the desk.
And especially when you've got the logging in, so you can actually see how long you've been in the office when you log in with your card.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the week you can go, oh my god,
yeah,
I was in here at 1 o'clock in the morning, like even leaving at 11.
Yeah.
And then thinking, just pop back and do a little thing.
Yeah.
Whenever, whatever state you may be in.
Exactly. And it was almost a competition between people to do more, and it just wasn't healthy, it wasn't productive. People would who can grow the scraggliest beards, who go the longest without showers,
who can go the longest without seeing their family. Those happy days.
Oh yeah. And that's really seems to be dying out, and people are really changing what they care about, and it's understanding that there is more to life than making the video games, and they do have families and partners, and their own health and their mental health is taking priority, and that's, I think, is fantastic.
I think it's a lot to do with the fact that people have grown up.
Yes.
And definitely when I started, I was in my early 20s. If we were all having a laugh making the games, So, and that was my social life. Do you know what I mean? They were my mates.
Yeah.
I had friends outside, but I got on with everybody who I worked with. I didn't mind staying till 11
That's
o'clock.
it, and it's so easy to nip out for a drink when, come on guys, let's just...
but now I'm married,
group.
I have kids, I love them, I want to see them.
Yeah.
So I think there's the industry has grown up literally as well.
Yeah.
So I think habits like that have changed. And also just awareness, it's not good for your mental health and things like that.
I think if there's one thing that games are incredibly on, it's mental health. We're really paying attention to that. We're understanding burnout, what it does to people, how bad it can get, right? And creativity does not exist with exhaustion. It just, you can't have those two things side by side and expect it to come out nicely.
I think that's sort of like, I think that's what I was trying to get across. It started out that everybody wanted to work late because it was fun and everybody was having a good time.
Yeah.
And then it sort of like morphed into, I am better than you because I have been here for 24 hours.
Yeah.
And
you only did 18 hours yesterday, babes.
Yeah, so it's all like morphed from fun into just weird.
Yeah.
And now we're sort of trying to come out the other side where it's like, let's just not do that.
Yeah. No good. Let's talk about fun stuff now anyways.
Yeah.
Girl game dev heroes. And why, if you want, Rebecca?
So for me, I would say it's the two founders of Unicorn Pirates.
Ooh.
They are awesome women. So they are, if you want to talk about women in games, they're just fantastic. And one of there's so much that I admire about them, but one of the things that I love about them is that one of their team members had a young baby, and so they actually hired a nanny for her to come in so that she could still work and have that work-life balance and wasn't worrying about having to get home and all the stress. And then they actually sent her on a spa day. So you talk about wellness and mental health. And
I might have another baby and just join their
Yeah,
family.
I mean, I'm wondering if Liquid Crimson will get me a dog sitter if I look stressed enough.
They're awesome.
It's not worth it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool. And again, it's the something that we need. The reason that we need female management, essentially, is to understand those things, to understand that situation. What's going to make this better? Yeah. It's not, just take some time off, you'll be fine. No, you need to give more than that. You know, if you want your staff member to give everything they have to you when they're working for you, it has to work both ways.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, not entirely. You don't have to give them everything. That might be a bit much. But yeah, there should be a give and take to the working relationship outside of a salary, because it is passion and knowledge and everything that we bring to a situation. Yeah, that's really cool. I like that. What about you, Jess?
Well, Adele was always one of my heroes.
Oh, please.
I know, it's true. It's true.
We
It's
can't
so I know. So I first met Adele when she came to my uni.
I can't look at you now, Jess, because I'm mortified.
Come on.
In a good way, obviously.
Yeah, she came to do a talk, and she was this female audio director at this huge games company, and I think you were very heavily pregnant at the time as well. And I was just like, that's so fucking badass. Like I want to be that. And so she was always someone whose career I watched and was like, I want to have that. I want to be able to be a director of a company that's doing these incredible games, and having that career directory, and knowing that I could be a woman and that I could have a family, and that nothing could stop me. I could still be a woman in a position of power within the games industry in AAA. And and obviously I've got to know Adele over the years and worked with her, so it's been pretty awesome.
And still just as empowering.
Exactly.
Oh, bless. I'm seriously trying not to cry. That was so sweet.
Well, now it's your turn, so now you have to fight those tears back, please.
Well, Jess, obviously. I was going to say Amy Hennig, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Just because of Uncharted, I think she's brilliant. I just think the performances in those games and the script, I just think it's really good. And I think you can tell, I think for me, so I'm going to bang on about Nathan Drake now, but Nathan Drake is a brilliant, rounded character. He's sort of like, you can tell a woman's been part of his development, because he's not like, I am man, I am, look at me, I am really macho. He's got so many more different sides, and he just feels real. So as a woman, you're like, oh, he's a nice man.
He's a nice man.
He's a nice man.
He's
and I think you can. That's got a lot to do with her. And I just think she's awesome.
Yeah, it absolutely makes sense. And you know what? I hadn't even considered that would be why he's so wholesome. Not wholesome, but you know what I mean. He's got all of those layers. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so how can we encourage girls who? I mean, it's a difficult one because the world has changed so much since we started doing this, right? So now I should think if a young girl wants to get into games, she can just do that because there are courses and there are contacts and there are ways to do it. But what about girls who might not think that games are for them, that might not realise that they have a skill or a passion that could be transferred into games? Are there any kind of bits of advice, tidbits that you would offer to young girls wanting to get into the industry who may not know that they want to get into the industry? It's a hell of a question.
I think I would say that video games are for every type of woman. I think there's this real misconception that to make video games or to be into games, you know, you have to be the girl gamer, and you know, it's a very specific look.
The fabled girl gamer.
You know, that you have to be into these particular type of things, that you have to dress a certain way, talk a certain way, do certain things, and it's just like, it's just absolute nonsense. You can be whoever you want to be, dress however you want to be, like whatever you want to like. You know, I've been lucky enough to have wonderful female friends in the industry who are a complete spectrum of incredible women, and you know, that's the beauty of it. We need the diversity of these women that like everything, you know, whether you're bonding over shoes and makeup or tanks and piercings, you know, it's like, it doesn't matter, you know, it takes everyone and everyone's perspective. And you know, it's like when you said about Nathan Drake, it's, you know, these characters and these best stories that we tell and these worlds that we create are made best by a diverse team, because they need those other perspectives to come in and help make a fully rounded character, a fully rounded
diversity
world.
Of thought, diversity,
yes.
Diversity of story, of experience. These
yes.
are things that we need to make sure we're continuing to bring.
Exactly. So if you know, you're out there and you're, you know, used to do ballet or whatever, you know, that experience might come in and help somehow. And like,
absolutely.
You might not think it's for you.
Yeah,
yeah, exactly. There's always a way that what you do or did could help with the industry. So that's what I would say is like, no matter what you look like, what you think or what you enjoy, there is always a home for someone in video games.
Absolutely. Adele, what would you say?
I think there's tons of I mean, I came from films to games, so you know, there's loads of transferable skills, you know, especially within the art disciplines, where you can start somewhere and change into games. There will be a learning curve, but it's quite easy to do. I think for me, we're almost targeting girls too late.
Yeah.
I think it needs to start in schools. So for example, my son started at a brand new school, and so they were naming all the forms, all the houses after inspirational people, and they called named 6 of the houses after men and one of them after a woman. I was just a bit like,
I mean, at least this is it. How could it not even have been flagged before it got to that point?
But I've got a theory, because I'm not a mum who writes to the school just to put that out there, but this did irritate me. So I did write to the headmistress and I said, hi, I think you should reconsider your last names. And she goes, oh, well, you know, that's...
We've had the engraving done now, sorry.
No, she was actually really good. And she got back to me and she goes, I said, because where I work, you know, it was really important that we're trying to show 50-50 split between men and women, and so I think the house names need to represent that. And she goes, well, you'll be very happy to hear that we're 100% leadership, the 100% of the leadership team are female, so many percentage of the teachers are female. I'm like, no, I'm not saying...
Even more so, how has this happened?
Well, no, I think it's because they work all with women, so they don't see all the industries out there where there's hardly any women, because they don't have to think about that. So I said that, and she changed it. I mean, it wasn't just me. I've got a few mates involved.
Nice.
She changed it. So they're going to add another 2 height. They've changed it so that it's nearly 50-50, but they're adding 2 more houses and then it will be 50-50. But that's where I think it needs to start.
Yes.
Because if you don't make the right choices for your GCSEs, then you can't take the right things you need at A-level. And so I really think it needs to be done at a school level, so that, I think a lot more girls are playing games. Like with my son and my daughter, they both play games. There's lots of girls, but it's just making sure they know that's an option.
Yeah.
So I think people need to go into schools, on career days and just show themselves as a woman in STEM. Woman.
I say we do it. Who's free? Should we
go?
There's got to be some around here that we can just stop in on.
Just walk in.
But I suppose it's that. What's really poignant about that is that we all felt, well, not so much Jess, I'm sure, and a lot of other people not so much, but many of us fell into this as a career. We didn't realise that games existed. Certainly didn't know that Guildford was a hub of video games. And myself and plenty of other people I know just ended up, okay, yeah, sure, I'll work in games. But now, lots of people know games exist, lots of people are going to university, lots of people are working incredibly hard. So that chance of I just happened to end up working in games because Guildford was up the road, is probably phasing out somewhat, and they're losing that opportunity. It's really important.
There's
really
so many audio courses. You must notice this, Jess. When I went to uni, there was like 2 I could maybe choose, which would give me the experience I want. But now there's so many, and so there's loads and loads of grads. So really, you've got to really want to do it.
Yeah.
Because if you haven't shown passion, if you can't talk about why you want to be in games in an interview, people are going to say, well, why would we choose the person who doesn't know anything about games when we've got the person who knows about games?
Yeah, for sure.
So I just think the education needs to be done at a much earlier level in schools.
I will be emailing you about that, FYI.
Yeah.
Rebecca.
It is about that inspiration, isn't it? Because as I was saying, I probably could have had a career in games, but I didn't even know that was an option. So I kind of picked lawyer, doctor and writer as choices. Ended up with a lawyer. None of them particularly exciting. And when I've been to conferences and I sit there and I think, it's almost like there's an alternate universe where there's another me who was a game developer or I did A-level art, and I would have loved actually maybe to go into the
animation,
any number of things.
So all of those options just were never laid out. And I think the choices you make when you're young do determine the routes that are available to you. Not that you can't necessarily change.
You can
maybe
deviate somewhat.
5 or 10 years time.
I think you can change that. I think that's also changing as well, in the fact that I think definitely when my parents got their jobs, it was a job for life. And now I think people are, there's a lot more working
longer as well.
You've
got time to have 2 or 3
exactly.
careers.
You don't have this golden pension at the end where you get full salary and all that. But I think people change jobs a lot more now. And obviously with working from home, it's a lot more flexible. So I just think the opportunity is there, and I don't think anybody should be put off because they're a woman. No.
And I think as well, just educating in terms of all the different aspects of being involved in the games industry. So it isn't just the really techie side. It isn't that you've got to have blue hair and spiky dress or whatever.
Yeah, it's true.
But actually you could, if you are a musician or a composer, or a voiceover artist or audio or artist, all of those can feed in.
Yeah. So, and I think if you're not a kid with a real active interest in it, you're not going to realise that there are all of these different kind of subsects underneath that you could fit into.
Yeah.
Whereas the kid that's so aware that they're going to do it already knows exactly what they want to do. I'm going to be a programmer. I'm running at it. We definitely need to start thinking about those kids that might not know, might not realise that it's out there. Okay, I don't want to take up too much more of your time because I know we're all super busy, and I'm making you sit here and talk to me when you could be doing any number of other things. So, the big question. Favourite Guildford game? You all know why we're here. This is why we're here. In whichever order. You guys choose. I quite like the scramble. I'm in for it.
You go first.
Probably say theme park.
Oh, good choice. Oh my gosh, that's a good choice.
Virtual high five.
Oh, I
I
Do it, elbow.
It was, I mean, it remains one of my all-time favourites, and even, I love 2 Point, sure, but theme grabs it for me. It's the nostalgia, it's the feeling like a probably more like 9-year-old feeling, having that kind of feeling and knowing, oh God, that there was so much more to come. Jessica?
I'm a Fable girl at heart. Absolutely.
Looks like I've set this whole thing up.
I know, but I love it. I love being an adventurer and just those little RPGs where you go out and you just go on quests and explore, and you get to choose to be, you get that choice. It's why I make narrative adventure games and have that branching choice. Do you be good? Do you be evil? And you go on a little adventure with a dog. What more do you want?
Yeah. I mean, the only thing that was lacking from Fable 3 for me is not being able to hold hands with the chickens. That was the only thing I wanted. Everything else was perfect.
Yeah.
Good choice.
Yeah.
Adele?
Well, I was going to say theme park actually, but I have got 2 others. Can I say 2?
Of course.
I'm going to say the Room franchise.
Oh, good choice.
Because I think that's really good. And the other one is Little Big Planet, because I still love it.
Yeah, me too. And again, it's one of those games that you can feel. Even just thinking about it, you can feel it.
Yes.
Oh, I love that so much. Ladies, thank you so much for taking time to come down and braving traffic and rain and everything else that's going on out there and getting to pandemics. Thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.